Would you mind if it doesn't, if a non-sensitive issue, could you share an example with us where you believe that you have influenced the decision making?
Sure. You know, one of the circumstances that Senator Graham referenced, we have a policy on each of the campuses wherein the administration, and I'm talking about the campus administration, each of those campuses go to their student government and solicit their input on student fees before those student fees are presented to the board. In the case of my own campus, there was a situation where the administration indicated in some of the board materials that the student government on the Columbia campus supported all of the fees that were being recommended to the board. That was in fact not the case, and student government passed a resolution which stated some lower dollar amount than what was actually presented in our board materials, which created two problems. One, this false notion that students supported, you know, everything that was being presented to us in our board materials, and then I guess the bigger issue, which was that we had false board materials. Well, I mean, the only reason the curators knew that that was the case is because I had actually, he's here, Jonathan Mays, the Speaker of our Student Senate, brought this issue to my attention, and I brought it up during a board meeting, had a phone conversation with several curators before the meeting, you know, encouraged them to postpone voting on student fees until the student government had an opportunity to weigh in. The board took that recommendation. They voted unanimously to postpone the raising of student fees until the next board meeting, not just for the Columbia campus, but for the whole UM system, so that the campuses could go back and communicate with their student governments to make sure that, you know, they were all on the same page. We brought it back. The Columbia campus, after, you know, looking at the issue again, ended up agreeing with the student government, proposed the lower fee which we had recommended in the first place, and the board passed that fee unanimously. So I mean, that's just one example. There are other circumstances where I think that the things that I've said during board meetings have had, you know, similar impact. But again, I think the real issue here is that I haven't had problems with curators listening to me whenever I speak. I think most of the time whenever I say something to at a board meeting, you know, they take into consideration what I say, they appreciate what I say, and I think it does influence their vote. It's that if I don't seek them out, I'm sometimes left out of the process in a way that a voting curator would never be left out.
How about, are you aware of the historical trends, or Senator, perhaps you might have this information? You had mentioned that most of the student curators that have served have been graduate or professional students. Give us just a little bit more information about what has been common historically.
Sure. Well, I can speak at least for the past 4 years anyway. Whenever I first got involved in student government and was elected student body president, the student curator at that time was from the UMKC campus. His name was Sean Gebhardt, and at the time he was, I believe, a PhD candidate in economics at UMKC. The student curator who was my immediate predecessor, Maria Kerford, who was from the Umsel campus, she was a master's student, I want to say in social work, I think that might be right. I'm fairly confident we've had medical school students on board before. I mean, most of these students are, again, I think there have been circumstances where somebody has been selected during their senior year and continued their service as a graduate student, but to my knowledge, there's never been a situation where you've had somebody has served their entire term on the board as an undergraduate. I mean, as Senator Graham said, I mean, the people who are selected for this position are not, you know, freshmen who, you know, are just freshly out of high school. These are older students typically. The average age of the student curator is 23 years old. And you know, myself, I actually turn 25 in the next couple of months. And so it strikes me, you know, that on the one hand, I'm not qualified in terms of age to be a member of the Board of Curators, but nevertheless, in a couple months, I'm eligible to run for the United States House of Representatives.
So you'd currently be eligible to run for the Missouri House.
And I currently be eligible to run for the Missouri House, that's right.
Where you would actually have a vote, I believe.
Oh, yeah, I would have it. Yeah, I think that's right.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Any further questions of this witness? Seeing none, thank you.
Thank you.